Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bourne Elementary School slash Bournedale People's Community Workshop. Tonight we have it here at Bournedale. The first one was at Peebles last time. So we'd like to welcome committee members and people from the public that were able to attend tonight. My name's Jim Potter. I'm the chairman of the school building committee. Tonight we'll have some introductions of the consultants that we have on board for our feasibility study that we're trying to complete here. The MSBA, Mass Building Authority process, project schedule, educational visioning, study scope, programming, existing conditions summary, and questions. And like I said, I'm Jim Potter, I'm the chairman. We do have other members here tonight that are part of the school building committee that town meeting had authorized earlier this year. We have a design team, and we have an owner's project manager. So for our design team, we have Kent Kovacs and George Cruz from Flansburgh Architects. And for our owner's project manager, this is our consultant that kind of is an owner's rep to the project, is Joel Seeley from SMMA Architects. So tonight we're going to have a presentation by Flansburgh, and I'll hand it over to Joel now.
Thanks, Jim. So I'll start off with talking a little bit about what the MSBA is. The MSBA is the Massachusetts School Building Authority. They're the state agency that oversees all school construction in the state of Massachusetts. And they have a very rigorous program for all communities that participate in school projects to make sure that those communities are following their feasibility study process to really understand what those projects are about, then understanding what the design process is and the construction process. They're a great partner in all of the communities, providing significant amount of reimbursement to communities for school projects. For Bourne, your base rate is 43.84% of the feasibility study funding that you appropriated at town meeting. MSBA will participate in that as a reimbursement. Moving forward with an overall project, if you follow the regulations, and you follow a transparent process, and we meet all of their requirements, they'll participate in funding the overall project as well. So the MSBA has a very rigorous process at this feasibility study phase. It's comprised of three primary steps. One is the preliminary design program, or PDP phase. That is the phase that we're in right now. The second is the PSR phase, or the preferred schematic report phase. And then the last is the schematic design phase. Each one of these phases has a submission to the MSBA. MSBA staff will review them, and in the case of the PSR submittal, it'll go to the board of directors for their approval and authorization for us to proceed into the next phase. Likewise, the schematic design phase, after staff reviews, would go to the board of directors, and their vote would then allow you to bring that project to the community for an overall vote for appropriation. So the PDP phase that we're in now really is all about understanding what the project is. That is spending a significant amount of time developing what is called the educational program, the educational vision, of which Kent and George will talk to us in a moment. Also analyzing all of the existing conditions around the sites of the buildings to be able to develop very clear conceptual designs which then can be estimated. The PDP phase is all about making sure that we're discovering all of the various options options for any of the design solutions and estimating it, and spending enough time, significant amount of time, investigating the subsurface conditions, the hazardous materials conditions, the traffic conditions, as well as just the overall scope and limitations of each one of the sites. So at the end of this phase, we'll have really a great kit of parts about all of the possible solutions, which will then whittle that down to the top three. And MSBA would like us to see at the end of this phase to have the top three alternatives. With the preferred schematic phase, you'll take those top three, study them some more, and then get to your top solution, your preferred solution. And then that is what will go to the board for their vote to approve that, and then allow you to go into the next phase, the schematic design phase. So what does that look like as it relates to an overall schedule? This is a bar chart schedule in which, for the community, you might not be able to, looking on Bourne TV, you might not be able to see this, but we'll provide the PowerPoint so that that can be inserted within the overall video production. But in a big sense, the PDP phase will be finished in December, this December. The architects are well into studying all the existing conditions, developing the educational program, and developing conceptual alternatives. That will then go into the MSBA. We'll get feedback from staff, and then we'll proceed into the preferred schematic phase, and that'll be finished in April. And that's the one that we have a board vote that we'll need to work up towards with the board of directors for MSBA. Once we get that approval, we'll complete the schematic design phase, again with another board vote, leading up to bringing the project to the community for an overall appropriation in your special town meeting in the fall of 2016. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kent to talk about our educational vision.
Thank you. So where we are now, this is part of the visioning that leads to developing the educational program. And we had a great community workshop at the end of October at the People's Elementary School. And we've also had workshops with the educational leadership team, that's the principals, superintendent, and other representatives. So from those meetings, there's been a list of guiding principles that's resulted from the community and meeting with the leadership team. And it focuses on inquiry-based learning, which is project-based learning and hands-on learning is important to be incorporated into a new educational project for your town. Flexible and adaptable spaces, visible learning, where there's select areas that allow you to see into other spaces so you see what's happening within the school. Create a place where people just want to be, a welcoming, nurturing environment for the elementary school students. Collaboration and connection throughout the school. It's important to have spaces for the students to break out and meet outside the classroom. Also, community access. This is very important that there could be a space dedicated to the community that could be used during off hours. Purposeful innovation and creativity that would be incorporated throughout. And future orientation and connections to tradition. The new school could actually have areas that incorporate the history of the town. So there could be a learning experience within the school that speaks to the history of Bourne. And again, learning communities, clusters of spaces that organize the students outside the classrooms. So those were the guiding principles. And these here are design patterns. This goes more into the physical environment. And from there, recurring themes are listed here. Gathering spaces, varied spaces for individual, small, and large group learning. Display and exhibition spaces where the great work that students are doing can be displayed in the hallways so you can see what's happening. Multi-purpose spaces, collaborative environments, indoor-outdoor connection. There's real focus and stress that the outdoor environment, learning environment, should be thought and as important as the indoor learning environment. Technology and blended learning, which should be infused everywhere. Agile classrooms that allow students to adapt to different learning styles and methods that promote motivation. And classroom neighborhoods, where classrooms could be organized in clusters, not just off of a corridor. And effective storage. That was a big one with teachers and staff that find storage strategies that work, that are space efficient, and work well with the flow of the traffic in the classrooms. So moving into the study scope, these are the options that are being studied. There's a K-4 of 250 students. There's an option 2 that's had discussion, which is a K through 5, which would be a neighborhood school as the Peoples exist and incorporate the entire 5th grade. So that's under discussion right now, hasn't been formally adopted. And option 3, which is a pre-K through 4, so that's a district-wide pre-K through 4 of 725 students, and then a option 4, pre-K through 5. So that's a pre-K through 4 with the entire 5th grade in one school, and that's for 885 students. So these are the options that are currently being studied during this project. And how they break down, this is just a quick snapshot. The state has guidelines for the size and quantity of spaces, and here's a quick summary of this. So for a school of 250 enrollment, it results in a building that's approximately 57,000 gross square feet. And these are the categories in the template. And we're meeting with the district now and talking about the program. So it's a guideline from the state, but the town and the district they're able to have conversations with the state to make it their own. So it's not cookie cutter, it is a school for the town of Bourne. Core academics speaks to the classroom, special education, art and music, physical education. And so just want to point out for comparison, so this physical education is 6,300 square feet. In both your schools, your gym is half that size. So you have 3,000 square feet in the gym. So the state guidelines has a gym that's twice as big. Media center, technology, which is the library, food service, medical, administration, and custodial. And so this just gives you a snapshot of what we're putting together right now when we talked about the educational program. And here's a look through those visioning workshops of how the school may be oriented as far as here's the multi-purpose spaces that could have community access, such as the gymnasium, the cafeteria with stage, similar to this space. Art and music, an innovation center. There's a great program in your school. It's at the high school, it's the innovation center that the elementary students can utilize. And so there's discussion of a space like that dedicated for this project. And then the learning commons, which is the traditional library with the technology infused into it. Now all of that is controlled on this half of this diagram by the administration in the lobby. So the academic world can be locked off during a community event, and this helps with, for supervision and locking off the building during different types of events. And so in the academic area, we have a cluster of K1 and 2, and a cluster of 3 and 4, and they're all centralized around a common team room. And then they both have access to a play area. So this is an adjacency diagram, and we're looking at options now to see how this works on your different sites. Here's the 410 enrollment, and again, that's a school around 72,000 square feet, and this would incorporate the 5th grade. Again, the adjacency diagram, you see you're adding more classrooms. So very similar, they all have the same organization. Here's the 725. So this is an all-district school, pre-K through 4, with a result of 114,500 square feet. So just for comparison, the building we're in now, it's 68,000 square feet. So this is substantially larger, which would be in addition to this school. And this is the organization of that. Again, the community and academic separation for control.
You said it would be in addition? You said it would be in addition to this school, or in addition in size to this building?
It would be in addition to this school. This would be
And options 1 and 2 would be where Peoples is now, is that the
most likely.
Okay.
Yep. That's what's feasible. And so the larger all-district schools, where you're getting into option 3 and 4, is going to be here, because you have a brand new building. So this economically and programmatically makes most sense for a large addition. So then the 885, so now the 5th grade is part of the project and alleviates the pressure of the middle school. And so you can see that that results in a building approximately 131,000 square feet. The entire fifth grade, pre-K through fifth, in this one building. And this would be the diagram. So you can begin to see all these neighborhoods. Pre-K is standalone with its own drop-off, K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's just a summary of where we are. This was the combination of the MSBA space templates with the visioning coming together. And so what we're going to come to at the next community workshop are the design options at the particular sites. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to George Cruz, who'll give us an update on the existing conditions.
Ken. So what we've been doing is taking a look at all the existing information you have on both the Peoples and the Bournedale. And we've actually gone out to each site several times. We'll continue to go out, we're continuing to do research. So basically, we want to give you the summary of where we are.
You're all in.
It's the middle.
I'll advance it for you.
All right. Keep it back. Thank you, Ken. So just break down the buildings by segment, which is basically the site, the civil engineering, the architecture, the structure, the technology, and mechanical electrical systems. Are you good to go? Yeah. So the study is to take a look at both of the buildings. Obviously, one is 2009, in very good condition, and the other one is 1959 and 1953, in what we would say fair to poor condition. And so the existing Peoples, what's going on with that?
There you go.
So you have a building that's a bar building, 1953 building with classrooms on both sides. You had the 1959 addition off to the back into the playground. We have a square footage, which is kind of off the screen, which is about 58,000 square feet. The landscape areas, basically we have non-compliant ADA issues on all of the site coming in. We have conflicts with the parent and bus drop-off areas where students and cars are mixing together, not a good thing. We have safety zones in the playground, a nice playground, but we don't have the proper safety zones there that need to be upgraded. And then we have a lot of site drainage issues, and the civil engineering goes into that a little deeper. We don't have any really good, I'm just going to go off the stormwater collection right now. So everything's really just sheeting off into the grass areas and into the wood in the back, which doesn't meet any of the DEP standards at the moment. We're still looking into the sanitary, which is tied into the main system with the high school and the middle school. So we'll be looking at whether there's additional capacity in there to do anything on that particular facility, but that facility would need to be upgraded. And then fire protection, there's really only one hydrant here, and we do have some sprinklers in the building, but not adequate for today's environment. The exterior of the building, very low R value. We have a lot of masonry conditions. We have a lot of water infiltration coming in. The window systems are still single pane back from the original days. The sealants are Bourne. Obviously, little or no R value there. The interior walls are actually in fairly good condition. They could be patched up and painted. The problem with the existing partitions inside is there's really no acoustical value to them. So in today's environment, you want some acoustical value in those walls so students can learn better. The flooring, a lot of it is original to the building, needs to come out, especially during a renovation like this. It's cheaper to actually put in a new floor than it is to protect the floors in place while people are working. The ceilings throughout are going to need to come out because we need to put lighting, new power, new fire protection. Also, we want to upgrade all the lighting to LED lighting for energy savings. The door hardware is very similar. They don't meet ADA requirements. They don't meet really today's security requirements and egress requirements. So those all need to be updated. The doors themselves, I mean, they could be kept, but a lot of them don't meet ADA requirements, so they need to come out anyway for size and clearance issues. And then in general, the building has not kept up with today's standards and codes. Inside each of the classrooms where we have sinks, we don't have any handicap sinks, so those all need to be updated. The cabinetry is worn, the furniture is worn. The library is part of the, really, there isn't a library there. I mean, it's part of the circulation space inside the 1959 addition. It's not conducive to today's learning. And then a lot of storage space that it lacks throughout the building. So on the mechanical side, very similar to what we're talking about. All of the systems have really exceeded their useful life. They're really taking a Band-Aid approach to keeping things running at this point in time. They need to be upgraded. We don't have good air ventilation. We need to bring those up to today's standards. And just a computer room that lacks cooling. We have no cooling in the building now. You have displacement system in this building, which actually helps you in those bridge months when it does get a little warm. So all of that needs to be updated. Electrical, very similar. We still have an antiquated electrical main switch gear. All of that would have to be completely redone. We don't believe that any of the branch wiring or panels would be worth saving as well. So really, we're looking at an entire new electrical system within the building to accommodate today's needs. Actually, with some of the energy efficient lighting, actually make the building entirely more efficient than what it is now. Same with fire alarm systems, site lighting, all of it's antiquated and needs to be updated. Fire protection, we have some fire protection in the building, but it's not uniform, doesn't meet today's codes. And certainly we want to check the flows out in the street to make sure that we have adequate flow for any kind of addition or renovation, as well as just upgrading what we have now. So a lot of it's not supervised, which means the fire protection system could go off, but no one's going to know about it because it's not tied to the alarm system. Plumbing, as you can imagine, all the plumbing are over 50 years old now. Really, we need to replace all of the plumbing, even the plumbing that's under the concrete slab. So you need to take up all the concrete slabs and do that plumbing if you were doing a major renovation and keeping the building. Grease traps, sanitary drains, all of the things that we have in modern building today that you have here are not provided for at the People's School. Technology, not too bad. I mean, you've been keeping up with technology, so we have smart boards and computers. We have some antiquated switches, but really beyond the data side of it, you start looking at the clocks and speakers and communication systems. They're all old and antiquated, certainly need to be updated. Need to take a look at security for today's environment. That will certainly need to be updated as well. And then we've looked at the structural system. So as you're aware, we've had a lot of water infiltration. We have a lot of masonry issues. We have cracking of brick. We have brick bowing out. We have other water infiltration issues that probably need further investigation if we were going to keep Peoples. The 1959 addition, as you know, the brick was removed in certain areas and put back with either Texture 111 or some other siding because of water infiltration issues. We do have some settlement cracks out there, so the building itself may or may not have been constructed on good, solid, compacted fill. So that's a questionable area back there. All of this leads to a major upgrade in the structure to meet the structural code today. Existing Bournedale, very good condition. Shows a little bit of wear, but overall it's been maintained very well by the town. Again, this is more of a courtyard scheme where we have a courtyard surrounded by academic classrooms, and then off to one side we have the main office and all of what we would call the shared facilities. And I believe this building's around 68,000 square feet. So what we have, and we needed to obviously take a hard look at this. We do have some major water infiltration issues in the courtyard. It doesn't seem to be draining properly, and we are getting water infiltration through the exterior doors back into the interior. So that needs to take a look at that. We have a couple of other site drainage issues at the main entry, and we have a flagpole, believe it or not, that's not ADA compliant, so somebody in a wheelchair cannot go up to the flagpole. Civil engineering. We have very good systems out here. We're looking at the existing septic system right now to take a look at what its capability is to add on to. We'll be doing more research on that. That is actually controlled by the DEP. We're going to look at the drainage here, but it appears that overall the drainage works very well, and the retention pond could be expanded to continue the drainage system here if we did decide to put an addition on this building. We have a significant amount of infrastructure. What's that mean? You have enough catch basins, you have enough drainage areas and to accommodate an addition here. And then the soils are very good, very sandy soils. They drain well, good film filtration. We don't see any problem adding on to this building. The existing water infrastructure kind of loops around the building, so no matter where we put our building, there will be some modification to the water loop that comes in, and just generally checking the size of that line coming in to make sure it can accommodate a new addition. Architecturally, the envelope is in very good shape. The R value is quite good. The windows are quite good. Really, the two major issues we see here are really some of the sealants, even after 9 years now, 10 years, they're starting to fail. They should be replaced. Up on the roof, where the roof meets the exterior wall, we're getting some cracking and some water infiltration into the building. So we think we should take out that masonry band at the bottom of the wall and look at that flashing that's back there. It may have some failures in those flashes that need to be repaired. And then the other issue really was acoustics. We didn't find a lot of acoustical complaints, but the one was the health office next to the music room. That certainly needs to be taken care of. But most of the hardware and everything in good shape. The only real hardware issue we found, again, was we're getting some water infiltration through these exterior doors, so we're recommending replacing the sills at the bottom of the door and getting those weather tight. Equipment, again, really the cafeteria is at capacity. So if we have to add on to the school with additional student population, we have to take a look at how can we make the kitchen more efficiency and create more capacity for it. There's a lack of storage in the kitchen. Media center has no real space for books, so there's a real discussion about what does the media center want to be in the future? Do we want to expand the media center, or how do we really want to handle that with the number of books you have versus less books? It's really a question mark on how you want to handle that. The addition could also support maybe more of a media center presence in that building as well. And then the cubbies and the furniture really obstruct supervision. So the way it's laid out inside, we may have to take a look at how those cubbies are laid out and how we can get better supervision within the classroom. Mechanically, it's 8 years old. Been keeping up very well with it. It has a displacement system in here, which one of the first schools to utilize that. Everyone is utilizing that now. So that allows you to bridge those shoulder months in the spring and the fall, where you might have some hot days where you're able to be comfortable in the building. All of the units are really just need to be maintained. I know there was a couple of failures where some of the bearings on some of the energy wheels went, so we would recommend at least coming through and recommissioning all the equipment and rechecking all of the equipment if it was going to remain, which it can remain. Electrical, again, everything within this building works fine. We have good service. We may want to consider taking the fluorescent lights out and going to LEDs for better energy efficiency. But if we do add on to the building, we do have to increase the electrical capacity of this main electrical room, or have a separate electrical room for the new addition. Same with the generator and the fire alarm system. They both would need to be expanded to accommodate the additional square footage of an addition. Plumbing and fire protection, really no issues here. Everything seems to be suitable. On the plumbing side, we would check the hot water system, recommission that, make sure everything's working fine. That gives it a maximum longevity. The existing fire service, we will also take a look at that, but it appears that everything is working fine here. The real issue on the fire surface would be if we add on to that, would we have the additional pressure in the street, or do we have to bring in a new service for that addition? Or could the existing service be adequate for that addition? So that's really the main issue that we'd be looking at, as well as the natural gas. Will the natural gas line that comes into this building support an addition, or would that need to be upgraded as well? Technology, it's fine. 9 years ago, we're doing Cat 6. We're still doing Cat 6 cabling in here. You've got a fiber optic backbone. That's what we're doing now. So everything's really up to speed here. Obviously, the real issue here would be expanding that system into a new addition. But overall, condition of the technology is very good. With that is the structure. We don't have any real major structural concerns. Again, as we went through, I would consider these more as maintenance items. So we have some sealants that are failing. We have some mortar joints that are popping out. We should go up there and repoint those and reseal those, as well as do an additional investigation on why that water is coming in through that parapet wall or the intersecting wall to the roof. Nothing of major concern, no major upgrades. The building right now meets the current codes, seismic codes, so we're in good shape there. There may be some minor issues as we go through and investigate this further, but we don't see anything major at all. With that, open it up to questions.
Why is it that when you do the gross square footage and the net square footage, why is that increment 1.5 factor?
So the net square footage is your actual program space. The 1.5 is your circulation space, your toilets, your boiler room, all of that ancillary space that is required to create a school.
Where did you get your population numbers from? On the number of students, how did you base that? When they built this school, it was
When the district partnered with the MSBA, that was the enrollment figures that were held by the MSBA, the district signed off.
The MSBA has demographers on staff that do the demographic projections for all communities for school projects. They look at a period of 10 years for any community that brings forth a project. And then between the MSBA and the community, they agree upon what those final projections are in the design enrollments.
During that time, MSBA interviewed us at the town level to ask about any developments that were pending or on the books that haven't been built out yet. And we have at least 300 homes over the bridge at Canal Side that are permitted under a 40B that Stop and Shop owns, have not been built at all yet. We have land over in Sagamore, out of Cliffside, as well as Don Angus's, and we can go on and on. But even with all that information, it was starting to trend down. So I think I don't know how they come up with numbers. I don't agree with their assessment, but they get the money, I don't.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm curious as a geotechnical engineer myself. I'm wondering what sort of geotechnical data do you have to support whatever excavation, foundation design you end up going with?
Well, here we have some good information. It's only 8 years old. For that people's building, we would conduct a full geotechnical investigation. We would probably do that here as well, although we have more information here than we do at
And just for this study phase, because we have to do our due diligence, so there's been borings taken here and borings taken at the Peoples, so we get that information now, so we can, as you said, give that to the structural engineer for looking at any options and understanding the soils. So they've been on site within the last month.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes,
As far as this being a feasibility study, it sounds to me like it's not even feasible that the Peebles building, anything will be done with it. Am I right by that? That what you're thinking is it'll be completely demolished because there's not enough left of it that's usable?
Well, at this stage, all the options are to be considered. The MSBA requires that a renovation only, renovation and addition, and a new construction option be developed for each one of these, so that they're really getting, the community and the MSBA are really getting a thorough look and analysis before any decisions are made. The key is to be able to put equal weight on the investigation and the design aspects for each one of these alternatives, so that the committee can then make an informed decision as they go along. And being the three-step process that it is, really allows a lot of input at the building committees meetings, which are generally every other week, as well as the community meetings that we're having just about every month to month and a half or so.
And is the middle school too small now? Is that why there's a conversation about adding the 5th grade into a new building? Is there not enough capacity at the middle school right now? Is that the issue there?
Yeah, I mean, typically schools, and this is a conversation with the district and the MSBA, so this has been out there, you know, the schools want to operate at 85% utilization, and the middle school's really high. It's like 99% utilization. So the spaces are maxed out, reduces any flexibility, so there is overcrowding to an extent. So that's why the conversation in the MSBA saw value in looking at options with the 5th grade to alleviate that pressure.
And are there any, is the district including thoughts about the high school also in this? I know this is specifically to Peebles, but, you know, they're about the same age, aren't they? I don't know, but the high school and Peebles, you'd figure if Peebles is falling apart, the high school must have a lot of the same issues if they're similar in age.
The high school is not part of this study. As when the town submitted forth their statement of interest to the MSBA, they identified the Peebles school as a need, and the MSBA agreed with that. It doesn't preclude sometime in the future that the high school could be, you know, part of another study, but this particular one that the town has funded is for the elementary schools.
And the high school is one issue. One of the aims of the administration was to village from the 60s, I think, but the majority of the village from the 80s. The 80s are
Is the only neighborhood plan for where the current elementary school is, Peebles, is it only a renovation, or is there talk of a whole new structure on that site as well? Or is it just renovation and add-on to here?
No, it's part of the overall study. At Peebles, there'll be a renovation and repair, a renovation only option, a renovation addition option, and a new construction option. And actually many variations of those three, but for the MSBA, we are required to look at a renovation only, a repair, a renovation and addition, and a new construction at Peebles. At Bournedale, a new construction here is not realistic, being that the building's only 8 years old.
No, I know that, no.
Here at
New
Bournedale,
construction is an
it's
addition.
the comparative analysis is the renovation and addition.
Is there any thoughts of how that would be done? With
Excellent that you've asked. So as part of the overall process and the overall study, the existing conditions have been analyzed, the educational program has been analyzed, and conceptual options have started to be developed. Some were actually presented to the building committee at our last meeting last week, 2 weeks ago rather, and they'll be further presented this coming Thursday night. Now, each of the building committee meetings are open to the public. They're duly posted, so we'd welcome the community to attend. At our next community meeting, which will be at Peebles, we're trying to alternate Peebles and Bournedale, which is December 8th, we'll have a detailed conversation about what all the various alternatives are to be able to garner community input on them.
Okay, so there'll be more discussion before this presentation to the state.
Oh, yeah. There'll be multiple community
Right,
meetings.
because you said that it's all had to turn in, I thought, by December 18th or something.
And that will be for all of the options that are studied with the top three.
That's what I mean, so we're very short time here to finalize 2, 3 final. And we have very vague ideas suggested tonight between 4 different plans. They're saying within a month, we're gonna go down to 3 concrete ideas. This is, I'm sorry, this is my first
Yep.
hearing what any of the ideas even are in the town. And we had a lot of issues last time around we did this. So,
But how about model schools? Is that part of the conversations? I know if we do an addition, we couldn't use a model school and get extra incentives that way. So would that be using one of the model school programs?
No, the model school program, MSBA has not put that forth, put that program forth in a while. It's been not paused for the moment, but what they're considering is that each school, as you go through the study, is unique. In particular, the size of the People's School is smaller than any of the elementary models that have been designed in the past. But the MSBA would invite us in for a model school if it was part of their program, but they haven't. This is part of a regular feasibility study.
How many students would be at People's, or how many students are we talking about?
250 at the People's School, and then there would be a 725 option here and an 885 option. And like I said, we're having conversations right now about the 410. That 410 would be at People's also. So
Yeah, because the Fairhaven school was built, the model school for 475. So, I look at it financially and say, obviously, the town could save money if we figured out a way to use a model school in these programs. They're already done. We get the extra incentives from the state.
And obviously, you could have a conversation about it, but at the People's site, where you're splitting because of the grade configuration, the model school really doesn't work. The one at Fairhaven, it required a completely flat site. So you don't have that at People's. And start to create retaining walls and bring in fill to get a model school there, you're just going to drive the cost up. So I'm not sure that's feasible in their minds, but let's get through this phase and see what they say.
No, that was it.
Does anyone have any other questions for our group?
Oh, the 43% number from the state, that's just for this study? The 43% that they're reimbursing?
Yes.
Okay, and then if we moved on, the MSBA would give us a number of their match before we moved on to the next step, or how does that work?
At the completion of the schematic design phase, next early fall, with that, they would identify what your base rate is, if it's still holding at 43.84, plus any incentives, which would be added on to that number. And that's based on the design that is brought forth. The incentives are based on the construction methodology or the level of sustainability, or even your maintenance level. And that will all get factored in at that schematic design.
And the 43 is on new construction. I think that's higher for addition, renovation.
Yeah, that's your base rate is 43.84.
So
And then
you can go high.
part of the
Well, yeah, I
incentive
figure,
is-
Plymouth South, their new high school they're building right now, they have 53%. So, what would we do to get to those types of numbers? How, would we specifically design our project to get as much out of the incentives that we can? Or,
your base rate is your base rate. That's based on your makeup, your particular income levels, poverty levels, etc. The state has that all factored in. And each community is different. And so it's hard to even weigh one community that's adjacent to another. They're all very unique. The incentive points are just that. You get up to 2 points for your level of maintenance that you can prove that you've done over the years to MSBA. Very tough to get 2. It's usually between 1 and 2. You could get up to 5 points, additional reimbursement points for a renovation only, but you won't have a renovation only project. It'll be a renovation in addition at the very least as it relates to the renovation incentive points. And how that works is it's up to 5 points based on the quantity of renovation compared to the whole building. So in this case, which we're about a 68,000 square foot existing building, putting on a 40,000 square foot addition for the larger one, the 885, it's the very relationship between the 40,000 and the 100,000 that factor in as it relates to that 5 points. So it's all formulaic. Whether or not you go with a construction manager at risk or design bid build is another reimbursement point. Now that decision will come. They'll give you 1 reimbursement point more for construction manager at risk, and then finally the sustainable design level, sustainable design, up to 2 reimbursement points if you meet a certain minimum, and that is the range of incentive points that are available.
Yeah, my one concern is, this is my first meeting on this too, so I'm concerned that as a town, we're not thinking, on the grand scale of, I think we're thinking kind of small here and replacing one building, knowing that possibly other buildings will need to be replaced, or that we're overcrowding school, middle school buildings, that sort of thing. So I'm thinking of other ways that we could possibly do things with other communities in the area, whether it's regionalizing or building one big high school.
And those conversations can take place, but not as part of this. This is town meetings authorized for this feasibility study. And at the end of the study, we can decide as a community, do we want to move forward or not? We'll have our options and they'll all be, even in the past, explored options of what we could have done, at least elementary-wise. And our partnership with the state, we have to commit to this study that we asked for. So anything broader than that won't fit into this study. And we want to get the best we can out of this study because, we're spending a good deal of money to investigate it and do what's best for the town and the schools. But I just wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight, and it's good that we have these questions. We're meeting again on this Thursday, 6:30, at the community building, if you want to make our next school building committee meeting. And then, as Joel said, we meet every 2 weeks for the most part there, so we would enjoy have more public participation at those meetings if you can make it. So, but this is, what's that?
If you can't make it, you can go onto the town's website and click on the school building committee. On there, there's a generic email. It's sbc@townofbourne.com. You can submit your questions there. They'll go to Joe, and Joe will disseminate the information out for us to answer and get it back to you. But as the chairman has said, we meet every 2 weeks on Thursday night.
Yep, and we do have the website that we've created for the public. But of course, coming to the meetings is helpful too, because it engages the committee more so than just looking at the website. But we put the minutes on there, and we'll have all the PowerPoints on there, and everything associated with what we're doing. But we would like the public to attend and engage in this process, so that when we submit to the state, then we have good feedback from townspeople too. Our next visioning workshop is December 8th. Eagles.
thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.